Do you all think that, speaking about a lot of summer movies and a lot of the blockbusters, do you think, and just looking about all of these Mission Impossible movies as well, do you think they kind of reuse a lot of, they do too many of the kind of the same kind of stunts in the same locations? Like you see Italy, or you'll see London. I think London, that whole big, like, what do you call that? The big turnaround that's in London, or not London, but Paris, I
Like the
think.
big Ferris wheel, or
Not the big fair.
The Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah, like that was also in John Wick,
okay,
and that, and
everyone's going to Amsterdam now, I noticed. So that's,
I think it was a
awkward.
different traffic circle in this. What's weird is that we look at this movie. This movie uses two locations that are also used in two other summer blockbusters. They go to Rome, like they go to allegedly in Fast X. And you watch that movie, and it does not have that same level of verve. And then the actual train set they made for this, when they had to halt in the middle of the pandemic, they lent it to Indiana Jones, where we had a train scene that was mostly done practical and is technically competent, but is kind of just muddy and can't avoid the pitfalls of using a AI generated CGI Harrison Ford. That sounds like an 80-year-old man.
Do you think it's just, watching too many movies that you notice it, or do you think that it's just using too many of the same locations, or is it just a me problem? Is it just a critic problem of just seeing too many movies, or what?
I think the thing with this movie is they use settings that weren't used in other Mission Impossible movies, but also we are running out of settings to film movies. I think a big problem that they're running into is that a lot of these summer blockbusters were shot during the pandemic in the only places they could go that would allow them to film. So we're going to naturally run into that. Otherwise, we're dealing with CGI sludge, like movies set in quantum realms and speed forces and what have you. So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'd rather just see a real location. Kudos to this movie for using Venice and not having a full water fight scene.
Yeah. Well, does the CG and the AI, are they not able to recreate how an environment works on a human body? Like, there's no question that Tom Cruise is cold and there's wind blowing in his face when he's jumping off a cliff. In a rigging, and I'm not saying riggings are bad, when you have Elizabeth Olsen jumping up and down on however they do it, like, it doesn't really look like she's a part of the environment she's floating around in, because that environment doesn't exist. But surely they can fix that some way, right? Like, I don't know, a box fan from IKEA, maybe? I'm just swinging wild here, but I think that's why films with more practical effects are really enticing the imagination, especially with the younger audiences, because they can see that someone is actually where they claim to be.
Well,
and maybe they just need to improve that. And
CGI is just so commonplace now.
Yeah, that's true.
And you think about like the ages of your kids and the ages of my siblings, and I mean, even me, I think I've went through my entire life with CGI being present in some way, shape, or form. This new generation is used to it, so it's starting to sour for them. And honestly, I think that's kind of might be a big part of what current crisis we're having blockbuster-wise this year. But you even look at something like Avatar 2, which is chock full of CGI.
Yeah,
they shot that movie underwater. I don't necessarily think that they needed to do it, but also I can't argue with the results when you look at something like Little Mermaid or even my beloved film Aquaman. There are elements of it that you're like, oh, that's an actor on strings. And also, you can act as well as you want. You can get Michael Douglas to step through wearing some Dockers and say, I'm in the quantum realm, but we can kind of just tell that they're in the parking lot in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's a bummer.
Well, yeah. I mean, you speak about Avatar. Yeah, the immersion there was the big thing of like, even though this is CGI, and it's like but just the immersion of everything felt really great. You know what I mean? And it followed up right after Ant-Man, where it was kind of like, yeah. I mean, that was one of my big criticisms was just people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, obviously Avatar had the time to be able to create an actual world that made sense and seemed grounded in, whereas you compare it to something like Quantumania, where it's like we have 5 squid creatures, a couple of Vikings, and Jackson Harper.
Yeah.
William Jackson Harper. And they're sitting in one shack, and then it's just a bunch of plain fields, and then it's Kang's lair. It doesn't leave much to the imagination when these should be capturing the imagination.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. What's a location you all want to see that you don't think gets enough representation in summer movie blockbusters? Where you want to go? Fast
and Furious 8 had a sequence in Cuba, but it was kind of a perfunctory sequence in a rather perfunctory movie. I'd love to see somebody do Cuba. Cuba would be fun. Yeah, let's go to Havana.
It's usually like either a drug movie or a sexy vacation movie when you go to Cuba, right?
Pretty much those.
We could use more of those. You're right. I want to see someplace boring, but maybe Wyoming. Is there a lot of Wyoming representation?
I can't think of anything right now. Yeah,
No,
Wyoming, they get a lot of big mountains, right? A lot of big mountains.
Yeah, just get that big plain type of. I like monster movies where you could picture a monster living there because not many people would make a big deal out of it, and there's not many people around to begin with, and lots of places to hide. So yeah, I'm going to say Wyoming.
I mean, if all things, this isn't even getting into spoilers, I don't think. If all things go well with the new Mission Impossible, it seems like they're shooting it in Antarctica.
Yeah, that's absurd.
Yeah, I don't think that there's.
He's going to want to go there.
Oh yeah,
Tom,
100%.
And we're going to see the frostbite on his nose and the snow in his brow, and I'll be like, look, just have a makeup department touch his face up in a CGI warehouse, and it'll be the same effect, right? Like,
there's
also
also
freeze to death?
That Doug Liman Tom Cruise project that they're doing that's going to be shot in space, and I guess we truly have never seen that before.
No. So maybe in Antarctica he'll run into the Fast Crew. Charlize Theron, they're there. Maybe he'll run into. They have she's in a submarine. Gal Gadot, she's in a submarine.
I was about to say Gal Gadot's in there with the entity with the crew. Yeah, she holds the other half.
That's one more thing I'd like to say.
Great MacGuffin?
No. Just so much respect for the whole MI series for not bringing Emilio Estevez or anybody else who has met their end just back to life with no explanation. I think that's, especially when these series get so popular, like that's pretty impressive. Like to let people actually die and stay dead,
Yeah. You say that, I think there is one element that was missing out of this movie that the other ones had that may have bumped it up a little bit, and Shea Wiggum kind of made up for it, but Alec Baldwin is really good in the last 2 movies.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And his pontificating was missed, and they certainly make up with it with Henry Czerny and everything. But if he came back to life and he's like, Hans, I play things close to the vest.
No.
Okay, maybe I don't need that.
That's not how the series rolls. Yeah, it's not how the series rolls.
Maybe I don't need that.
Yeah. I think what's a location that doesn't really get a lot of love I'd like to see? I'm trying to think of what's a place that's kind of random. Does Vietnam, does that get represented a lot? Like people just kind of do that for war.
No.
I mean,
war movies.
The Five Bloods, but that's about it.
Yeah, Vietnam. I think you could do some cool
movie,
set pieces in Vietnam. Yeah, Vietnam would be pretty cool. Yeah, Taiwan maybe would be pretty cool. maybe something like that.
I mean, the new Bond movie had gorgeous settings. I'm trying to remember even the spot, but the whole opening scene. I want to say it was somewhere in Spain or Italy. It looked fucking gorgeous, and I've seen it in other movies. It's all about how you use the setting. I think it doesn't bode well for Mission Impossible, Fast X, and Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny that they all had to kind of use the same like 3 places that you can get passports to. But Mission Impossible certainly showed it off more than any of the other ones. I mean, just the use of the cobblestones in Rome for the car chase was so much more innovative than Fast X.
Yeah. No Time to Die. So it says some of the locations they use Jamaica, Norway. Yeah. So that was some of the
yeah. Those were all really well used locations in that movie.
Yeah. Well, really good.